There was something about that autumn light, the way it slanted through the windows of old houses, making the dust seem alive. Elena always loved this time of year, when the trees behind Clayville's narrow roads bled their colors onto the earth. But this year, the air felt wrong, thicker, like the world was holding its breath. Her grandmother's house had been waiting for her, quiet, tilted, full of memories that seemed to hum behind the walls. It was the kind of place that smelled like time itself, old perfume, yellowed books, and faint traces of lavender. Elena hadn't been back since her grandmother passed. She'd come now to sort through what was left, to decide what to keep and what to let go. But Clayville had other ideas. The house seemed to sigh when she stepped inside. The wooden floor gave its familiar complaint, and the wind outside murmured something low through the trees, almost a voice, almost a song. She paused, hand still on the doorknob, as if the air itself was remembering her. Elena wandered through the rooms, her fingers trailing over lace curtains and picture frames, where their faces looked both familiar and strange. Her grandmother had loved dolls, porcelain ones, with painted cheeks and eyes that never quite closed. They lined the shelves like quiet witnesses, their faded ribbons and dresses preserved in stillness. Elena had hated them as a child. They weren't just dolls. They were too perfect, too human. Some of them seemed to follow her with their eyes, and her grandmother would laugh softly, saying, "They only watch those who are awake inside." Elena never understood what that meant. By late afternoon, she found herself in the attic. It was the kind of space that didn't belong to any season, still and heavy, like a place between time. She opened the small round window and watched the trees move below. Then she saw it. A box in the far corner, wrapped in a moth-eaten shawl. It wasn't large, but something about it pulled her closer. The latch was rusted. The hinges gave a tired cry when she opened it. Inside lay a single doll, unlike the others. Its face was cracked, but beautifully so, pale porcelain veined with hairline fractures, as if it had been struck by lightning but refused to break. Its dress was simple, dark blue velvet, trimmed with lace that time had softened to cream. Elena reached out, hesitated, then touched it. Her reflection wavered in the doll's glass eyes, and for a second she swore the eyes blinked. She dropped it, her breath catching in her throat. The sound of porcelain hitting wood was sharp and hollow. But when she picked it up, it wasn't broken. Instead, a thin seam had appeared at the doll's neck, as though something inside had shifted. And then she heard it, faint, almost like the wind, but too close, too deliberate. A whisper. Elena, her name. She froze. There was no one in the attic. Outside, a storm had started to gather. The clouds were the color of bruises, and the air pressed close against the windows. Elena wrapped the doll in the shawl and carried it downstairs, her heart thudding with a rhythm that didn't feel entirely her own. That night, she placed the doll on the old dressing table beside her bed. She told herself she was being ridiculous, just tired, overwhelmed, haunted by nostalgia. But as she lay down, she could feel the weight of those painted eyes through the dark. And when she drifted toward sleep, she heard the voice again. Not from the doll, not from the room, but from somewhere inside her. It whispered, soft and trembling, "Please, don't leave me here again." Elena woke before dawn. The storm had passed, leaving behind the hush that only comes after something has been taken away. She sat up, disoriented. The air smelled faintly of lilac, her grandmother's perfume. The doll was gone. She searched the table, the floor, even the hallway, her pulse quickening with each step. Nothing. The house was quiet, watching. Then she noticed the trail, faint prints on the dusty floorboards, small and bare, leading toward the parlor. Elena followed. At the end of the trail, in the pale blue light of morning, the doll sat upright on her grandmother's favorite chair, hands folded neatly on its lap, Something in Elena's chest twisted. The chair creaked softly as she approached, as though greeting her. She crouched, staring at the doll. "Who are you?" she whispered. For a moment, nothing. Then the faintest movement. The doll's lips, parting slightly. A voice like breath over glass. "Don't you remember?" Elena stumbled back, her heart hammering. No, this isn't. But she did remember something. A feeling. A shadow from childhood summers, spent in this same house. Nights when she'd wake and hear someone singing softly in the dark. Not her grandmother, not quite human. And then she saw it, the framed photo on the mantel. Her grandmother holding a little girl. But not Elena. The girl looked almost identical to her, yet not. The same curls, the same solemn eyes, but different. On the back of the photo, scrawled in her grandmother's looping hand, Elena and Lila 1999. Elena's stomach dropped. She was an only child. The doll's head tilted. "She didn't tell you, did she?" "Tell me what?" "That I'm you. Or what's left of you." Elena stepped back, shaking her head. "You're not real." But the doll smiled then, a slow, tragic curve of painted lips. "She tried to save us both. One soul couldn't hold all that grief, all that loneliness. So she split us, the girl who could live, and the girl who could feel. You forgot me. But I never forgot you." The air flickered, cold and alive. The lights dimmed, and Elena saw it, faintly, like a reflection in water. The image of a girl standing behind the doll, pale and translucent, her expression a mirror of Elena's own sorrow. "Lila," Elena whispered. The ghost girl nodded. "She kept me here, in the porcelain. Said one day you'd come back. Said maybe then we could be whole again." Elena's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to run, to escape this nightmare. But something inside her, deep, buried, recognized the truth. She reached out a trembling hand. "What happens if I touch you?" The ghost smiled faintly. "Then you'll remember everything." And when Elena's fingers brushed the doll's cold hand, a flood of memory crashed through her. Childhood laughter, two girls playing in the garden, her grandmother's lullaby, the accident, the scream, the silence. The porcelain cracked, splintered, not from breaking, but from opening. And from within the doll, a small heartbeat began to echo. The days that followed blurred together, as if time itself was adjusting to their reunion. The house no longer felt empty. It pulsed faintly, alive with whispers of the past. Elena could hear Lila sometimes, in the creak of the stairs, in the rustle of curtains, in the lullabies the wind hummed through the trees. She wasn't afraid anymore. There was sadness, yes, but also something like peace. She began to write, pages filled with memories she didn't know she had. Their shared childhood, the dreams they once wove together, the night her grandmother had made an impossible choice. In her journal, Elena wrote, "Lila was the part of me that felt too deeply. I was the one who survived. Now maybe we can both live in the space between." But as Halloween approached, Clayville grew restless. The townsfolk whispered of strange lights in the old house on Elwood Hill. Children said they heard a girl singing through the windows. Elena ignored it at first, but on the night of October 31st, as the moon climbed white and heavy over the trees, she felt the air shift again. The doll, now resting on the mantel, turned its head. "Elena," Lila's voice breathed, soft but urgent. "It's time." "Time for what?" "For you to let me go?" Elena's throat tightened. "I just got you back," Lila smiled, that same sad, familiar smile. "You never lost me. I only waited for you to remember." The lights flickered, and the temperature dropped. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying fragments of song, the one their grandmother used to sing. The walls of the house seemed to shimmer, thin as a dream. Lila stepped from the doll now, her form clearer, glowing faintly. She looked older, not the child from the photo, but the woman Elena might have been if she'd chosen a different path. She reached out. "Thank you for finding me." Elena took her hand, tears falling freely. "What happens now?" "Now," Lila said softly, "you live for both of us." And then she was gone, a whisper of light, dissolving into the air. The doll crumbled into dust. Elena stood in the quiet, trembling but unafraid. The house was lighter somehow, its weight lifted. She walked to the window, opened it, and let the cool night in. The wind brushed her cheek like a goodbye. Below, the trees swayed, their leaves glinting like embers under the moon. Somewhere, far away, a bell rang 12 times. And for the first time in years, Elena smiled, not because she understood everything, but because she finally understood enough. That night, Clayville slept soundly. The house on Elmwood Hill was silent. But if you passed by at just the right hour, between the last chime and the first light, you might still hear 2 girls laughing, faint and far away, in the place where stories remember how to end.